AITA for blocking my childhood best friend after she tried to make me pay for the catering at her son's first birthday? She just took my card without my permission. I, 28F, have known Anna, 28F, for as long as I can remember. We grew up on the same street, went to the same schools, sat next to each other in every class we could manage, and spent summers riding our bikes and staying up way too late talking about our dreams for the future. We have been through absolutely everything together. First crushes, first heartbreaks, the awkward transition into adulthood. She is more than just my best friend. She has been like a sister to me for as long as I can remember. Naturally, when she got pregnant, I was over the moon for her. I helped her plan her baby shower, went shopping with her for nursery furniture, even sat with her through some of those endless doctor's appointments when her boyfriend was working and she did not want to go alone. I did not hesitate for a second to be as involved as I could be, and honestly, I was genuinely happy to do it. I love her and I wanted to support her, especially in such a huge new chapter of her life. Things stayed pretty good for the first year of her son's life. We would have coffee dates where she would show me about 1,000,000 pictures of him doing what to any outsider would seem like completely normal baby stuff, but to her was pure magic. I listened to her worry about nap schedules and teething, and I was there to lend an ear anytime she needed to vent about the exhaustion and loneliness that can come with being a new mom. I thought everything between us was still solid. Then came her son's first birthday. I figured it would be a sweet little gathering. Family, close friends, a few balloons, maybe a homemade cake. You know, the kind of party a 1-year-old is not even going to remember but that parents throw because it is a milestone for them too. But Anna had other ideas. She wanted a full-blown event. We're talking about a rented venue, professional catering, elaborate themed decorations, a balloon arch so big it could probably be seen from space, and even a bouncy house. It felt less like a birthday party, and more like she was planning a miniature wedding. I was a little surprised but figured, hey, it is her kid's first birthday, and if this is how she wants to celebrate, then good for her. It's her money, her choice. I thought maybe she had saved up for it or gotten some help from family. I was not going to question it. I just wanted to show up, support her, and celebrate this little life we had all come to love so much. About a week before the party, though, Anna started dropping comments here and there about how expensive everything was getting. She would say things like, "Oh, I cannot believe how much this is costing," or, "Money is so tight right now. It is stressing me out." I offered to help however I could. I suggested picking up some snacks, maybe baking some cupcakes, helping decorate. I wanted to be supportive, but every time I offered, she would brush it off with a smile and say, "It is under control. Do not worry." Fast forward to the day of the party. I arrived early to help set up because, again, that is what friends do. The venue was already swarming with people setting up decorations, arranging tables, inflating balloons. It looked beautiful but completely over the top for a toddler's party. I found Anna frantically trying to tape up some giant banner and jumped in to help her. While we were working, she casually dropped a bombshell without even looking at me. She said, "Oh, by the way, I put the catering on your card." I froze mid-taping. I said, "What do you mean you put it on my card?" My voice was way calmer than I felt because inside I was immediately panicking. She just waved her hand dismissively and said, "Yeah, you know I've been struggling. I figured you wouldn't mind covering it, and I'll pay you back later." I could not believe what I was hearing. She never once asked me if I would be willing to pay for anything, let alone something as huge as catering. I had no idea how much it even cost. My heart started pounding because I do not have the kind of money lying around to casually pay for someone else's catering bill. I asked her, trying to keep my voice steady, "How much was it?" She shrugged like it was nothing and said, "Only about $500. It is not a big deal. Only $500. $500 that I never agreed to spend on food I had no say in ordering for a party that, while I was happy to attend, was not my responsibility to fund. I took a deep breath and said as firmly but kindly as I could, "Anna, I never agreed to this. I cannot pay $500 for your party." Her face dropped immediately. She looked genuinely hurt and said, "I thought you would want to help. You know how hard things have been for me. This is my son's first birthday. It is a huge deal." I said, "I understand that, but you cannot just assume someone is going to pay for something without asking them. That is not fair. I do not have $500 to just throw around." She got defensive and started raising her voice, saying that I was being selfish and that a real friend would step up and help without making her feel bad about it. Some of her other friends were standing nearby setting up decorations, and they all went awkwardly silent, pretending not to hear but very obviously listening to every word. I tried to explain again that I was happy to help in ways I could actually afford, but that this was way over the line. Anna kept pushing, saying, "It's just money. You'll get it back, I promise." But I could tell by the way she was acting that the chances of me ever seeing that money again were slim to none. At that point, I just could not take it anymore. I told her I was leaving, packed up the little gift I had brought for her son, and walked out. I felt embarrassed, hurt, and frankly furious. I spent the rest of the day feeling guilty and second-guessing myself. Later that night, my phone started blowing up. Anna sent me dozens of texts, long paragraphs about how I had ruined her son's birthday, how I did not understand what it is like to struggle financially, how I had abandoned her when she needed me most. I tried to respond calmly at first, explaining again that she had crossed a boundary, but she just kept piling on the guilt. After a while, I realized that no matter what I said, she was not going to see my side. She had already made me out to be the villain in her mind. So I blocked her. I could not deal with the endless guilt trips and emotional manipulation anymore. Since then, a few of our mutual friends have reached out. Some of them said they understood why I was upset, but thought I should have just paid it to keep the peace. Others said that if I was really her best friend, I would have helped her out without making a scene. One even said, "It is just money. You could have figured it out later. But the thing is, it is not just money. It is about trust. It is about respect. You do not make financial decisions for other people without their consent. And you definitely do not ambush them with a huge bill at the last second and expect them to just go along with it. I hate that our friendship of decades is probably over because of this. But at the same time, I feel like I had no choice. If she thought it was okay to do this once, what would stop her from doing it again? So, am I the one in the wrong for blocking her and walking away from the friendship, or did I overreact? Update 1. About a month after the party fiasco, when the sting of the whole situation had dulled just enough for me to think clearly, I unblocked Anna. I did it quietly, without telling anyone, mostly because a small part of me still missed her. After everything we had been through, it felt impossible to just erase her from my life entirely. I told myself that maybe we both needed time, that maybe once emotions cooled, we could find our way back to something resembling the friendship we had shared for so long. I missed the inside jokes, the late-night talks, the feeling of knowing someone who had literally seen every version of me and still stuck around. For a little while, things seemed fine. She did not reach out right away, and I figured that was for the best. It gave me space to breathe, to sort out my own feelings without the added weight of her expectations. Eventually, though, the messages started trickling in. Just casual things at first, memes she thought I would laugh at, a funny story about her son, a reminder of a song we used to scream sing in the car during summer road trips. It was easy to slip back into old rhythms, easy to forget the ugly fight when she was being sweet and nostalgic. We made plans to meet for brunch one Sunday morning. I told myself it would be low stakes, just a chance to catch up. Nothing too serious. She picked the place, a cute little cafe downtown that was known for its fancy lattes and overpriced avocado toast. I thought about suggesting somewhere cheaper, but I did not want to start another argument, so I went along with it. Brunch was nice enough at first. We talked about work, her son, little things. I could almost pretend that everything was normal. But when the check came, she patted around in her bag for a long moment before laughing and saying she must have forgotten her wallet at home. She said it so breezily, like it was no big deal. Like of course I would just cover it. I told myself it was not worth making a scene. It was brunch, after all, not $500 in catering. I paid, but a little knot tightened in my stomach that did not loosen even after I left. I tried to brush it off. Everyone forgets their wallets sometimes, right? It was just a mistake, not a pattern. Except that it kept happening. A couple of weeks later, she asked if I wanted to go shopping with her. She needed a new dress for a wedding she was attending and said she would love my opinion. It sounded innocent enough, and honestly, I missed the normalcy of hanging out, so I agreed. We wandered through the mall laughing and chatting like old times. But as we were checking out at one store, I noticed she had slipped a couple of items into the pile of clothes I was buying for myself. When I raised an eyebrow, she just smiled sweetly and said, "You'll get this for me, right? I'll Venmo you later." I hesitated, caught completely off guard, but the cashier was already ringing everything up and people were waiting in line behind us. I felt too embarrassed to say no on the spot, so I paid. And of course, the promised Venmo never came. That was when the pattern really started to become clear. Every time we hung out, there was some kind of expectation that I would foot the bill. It was rarely overt, never spelled out directly, but it was always there lurking under the surface. A coffee here, a dinner there, movie tickets. Little things that added up over time. If I tried to set boundaries, like making it clear beforehand that we would each pay for our own things, she would either act wounded and say she felt like I was treating her differently, or she would find sneaky ways to push the boundary anyway. One time, I told her up front that I could only cover myself at a restaurant. She agreed, no problem. But when the check came, she said her card was acting up, and could I just pay for her now, and she would pay me back later. I wanted to believe her, wanted so badly to trust that this was not intentional. But deep down, I knew better. The repayments never came. The apologies never came. And every time, I was left feeling guilty, like I had done something wrong by not being more understanding. It was such a slow, insidious shift that I almost did not notice it at first. But the more it happened, the more trapped I felt. Hanging out with Anna started to feel less like seeing a friend and more like walking into a trap I could not escape. I started making excuses to avoid plans with her, started feeling a pit in my stomach whenever her name popped up on my phone. It broke my heart because this was someone who had been part of my life for so long, someone I genuinely loved. But it was becoming clearer with every interaction that she no longer saw me as an equal partner in our friendship. She saw me as a safety net, a wallet, someone she could lean on without ever worrying about giving anything back. It started eating away at me, making me dread seeing her, which was heartbreaking given our history. Update 2. Eventually, after weeks of going back and forth in my own head, trying to convince myself that it was not as bad as it felt, I decided to bring it up with a few of our mutual friends. These were people who had known Anna almost as long as I had, people I trusted to give it to me straight without sugarcoating anything. I was almost hoping they would tell me I was overreacting, that I was reading too much into things. But when I hesitantly shared what had been happening, the brunch incident, the shopping trip, the repeated situations where I felt pressured into paying, their reactions told me everything I needed to know. One friend sighed heavily and said she had noticed similar behavior but did not want to cause drama. Another admitted that Anna had borrowed money from her in the past and never brought it up again, acting like it had never happened. Someone else shrugged and said, "That's just Anna. You know how she is." The more I listened, the more I realized that this was not a one-off thing. It was a pattern. And worse, it was a pattern that everyone had silently accepted because confronting it felt like more trouble than it was worth. Hearing all of that gave me a strange sort of clarity. It made me realize I was not crazy or overreacting. It was not about a few forgotten Venmo payments or the occasional meal. It was about the bigger picture, the erosion of trust, the feeling that my friendship had turned into a resource she could tap into whenever she needed something without any thought for how it made me feel. I decided I could not keep sweeping it under the rug. We needed to have an honest conversation. I texted Anna and suggested we meet up for coffee. I picked a place that was neutral, casual, and public enough that things would hopefully stay civil no matter which way the conversation went. She agreed right away and sounded cheerful, like she thought this was just going to be another regular catch-up session. When I got to the coffee shop, she was already there, sitting by the window with a bright smile on her face like none of the tension from the past few months even existed. For a few minutes, it felt almost normal. We ordered drinks, chatted about small things, her work, my family, random little anecdotes. I kept waiting for the right moment to steer the conversation to the real reason I had asked to meet. Finally, I just took a deep breath and told her, calmly, without blaming or accusing. I explained how uncomfortable I had been feeling lately. I told her about the pattern I had noticed, about how often I ended up covering for her without her even acknowledging it, about how I started dreading hanging out because I never knew what I was going to be expected to pay for next. I tried to keep my voice steady, tried to make it clear that this was not about punishing her or shaming her, but about wanting our friendship to feel balanced and respectful again. At first she laughed. She actually laughed, like I had just told her the most ridiculous joke she had ever heard. She said, "You're just being dramatic. It's not that serious." She waved her hand dismissively and took a sip of her coffee, clearly expecting me to drop it and move on. But I did not. I stayed steady. I told her it was serious to me, that it had been weighing on me for a long time and I needed her to understand that. When she realized I was not going to let it slide, her whole demeanor shifted. The cheerfulness dropped away like a mask being ripped off. Her voice turned sharp, her face closed off. She accused me of keeping score, of turning our friendship into a transaction, of caring more about money than about her. She said that friends were supposed to help each other without expecting anything in return. That if our roles were reversed, she would have helped me without thinking twice. I told her it was not about the money. It was about respect. It was about trust. I needed to feel like she valued me for me, not just for what I could provide. I needed to know that when we made plans, it was because she wanted to see me, not because she needed someone to pick up the tab. I barely got halfway through explaining how much it hurt to feel used by someone I had loved like a sister when she rolled her eyes dramatically, grabbed her bag and stood up. She said she did not have time for this kind of negativity. She said she was too busy, too stressed, and too tired to deal with someone trying to tear her down when she was already struggling. Before I could say another word, she turned on her heel and stormed out of the coffee shop, leaving me sitting there with a half-finished latte and a sick, hollow feeling in my chest. It was clear she did not want to hear it. Update 3. A few weeks after Anna had stormed out of the coffee shop, I had mostly come to terms with the idea that our friendship was over. I went through this strange period of mourning, grieving not just the loss of her, but the loss of who we had been together. I started adjusting to a life without her daily texts, her spontaneous plans, her way of lighting up a room even when she drove me crazy. It hurt, but it also felt cleaner, less tangled with resentment. I told myself it was for the best. Some friendships are not meant to survive every season of life. Then out of nowhere, I got a message from her. It was long, much longer than any text she had sent before. And right away I could tell it was different. It did not start with accusations or defensiveness. It was not full of justifications or guilt trips. Instead, it was an actual apology, raw and real in a way I had never seen from Anna before. She wrote that she had been feeling completely overwhelmed with everything, that becoming a new mom had swallowed her whole in ways she had not expected. She said the financial pressure had been suffocating, that every day felt like she was treading water and losing ground. Anyway, she admitted that in her panic she had started leaning too hard on the people closest to her without realizing how much she was taking rather than sharing the load. She said she understood if I could not forgive her, that she would not blame me if I wanted to walk away. But she wanted to try to make things right if I would let her. I sat with that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to protect myself, to say it was too little too late, to close that chapter for good. But another part of me, the part that still loved her, that still remembered every late-night drive and every whispered secret, knew that real friendship is not just about being there for the good times. It is about finding a way through the hard parts too. I agreed to meet her again. Same coffee shop, same big windows and too loud milk frother in the background, but the energy this time was completely different. Anna was already there when I arrived, sitting stiffly at a table in the corner, looking more nervous than I had ever seen her. She stood up awkwardly when she saw me, like she was not sure if a hug would be welcome. I gave her a small smile and sat down. She apologized again, face to face this time, voice shaking just a little. She said she had been so wrapped up in her own struggles that she stopped seeing how her actions were hurting the people she cared about most. She said she hated the idea that she had made me feel used, that she had never wanted that even if her behavior made it seem otherwise. She looked me in the eye when she said it. No flippant jokes, no dismissive laughter, no brushing it off. Just sincerity. I told her how much it had hurt, how isolated I had felt, how trapped and resentful and guilty all at once. I told her that what broke my heart the most was that I had stopped feeling safe around her. Had started feeling like every time we hung out, I had to have my guard up. I needed her to understand that trust, once broken, is not easy to rebuild. And to her credit, she listened. She did not interrupt. She did not argue. She just listened. Really listened. And when I finished, she nodded slowly and said she was sorry again, not in a way that sounded performative or desperate, but like she actually meant it. We talked for a long time after that, longer than we had planned. We agreed that if we were going to try to rebuild our friendship, it had to be different this time. No more assumptions about money. No more unspoken expectations. If either of us needed help, we would ask directly and accept the answer, even if that answer was no, without resentment or guilt tripping. We promised to be honest with each other, even if it was uncomfortable. It was not like flipping a switch. Things did not magically snap back to how they had been before. There were awkward moments when I caught myself flinching internally if the check came at a restaurant or if she asked me for a favor. There were times when old habits almost slipped through, when I could see her start to fall into old patterns and then visibly stop herself. And I had to be honest with myself too, to admit that my trust was fragile and it was going to take time before it felt whole again. But little by little, step by step, we started finding our way back to each other. We started doing small, safe things together, walks at the park, coffee dates where we each paid separately, nights in watching movies and eating cheap takeout. No pressure, no hidden strings, just two friends relearning how to be in each other's lives in a healthy way. It was not perfect. It probably never would be. But there was something beautiful about the way we both chose to try to fight for the friendship instead of letting it rot away under the weight of hurt feelings and pride. Today, we are not exactly the same as we were when we were 15 and dreaming about the future on her bedroom floor. We are a little older, a little more cautious, a little wiser. But we are still here, still laughing at inside jokes no one else understands, still showing up for each other even when it is messy and hard, still choosing, day after day, to be in each other's corners. And honestly, I think that is even better than what we had before.